Hi there, welcome to or welcome back to Tiff Reads Books, where I read books and I talk to you about them. Today, we have a couple of goals. One is for me to not get hot and overly stimulated and frustrated. Two is for us to get through this then without Hugin squeaking, because Hugin has reached an age where if I'm making noise at all, he is concerned. And I think this is just going to be old man dog stuff. So I'm going to try to not get like flustered so that Hugin doesn't start whistling in the background. I'm also going to try and get through a few videos with the sun up. Also, I'm apologizing right now if the light is very harsh. The sun is just coming through that window, and short of closing the blinds and then losing all my light, there's not really a lot I can do at the moment. I've tried counteracting it with like ring lights on this side, but they're very small and we will see what happens. I'm already getting a little warm, so let's see how everything goes. So, are you ready for me to backtrack on everything that I said about how I shouldn't do a TBR because it was making it very difficult for me to read? Because that's what we're about to do. I tried last month with no TBR, with just being like, I'm gonna read whatever I'm going to read next. And do you know what I did? Up until like the 15th of the month, I only read one book. I was trying to read other books and it just was not working for me because I was trying not to jump around. And you know, we're just gonna try going back to the pile of possibilities and we're gonna wait for the siren to go by. Okay, so let's talk TBR. I went through Libby today and I was like, what audiobooks do I want to try to read this month? Because I've gotten in this kick, which is kind of why I can do this TBR thing right now, I think, is I've gotten in this kick of let me finish series. Like, what series do I have ongoing where I can get caught up to or finish the books that are out at the very least, right? And there's a few series that I'm like absolutely obsessed with and really want to finish, but I've been putting them off because I'm obsessed with them. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, you know what? I feel like I'm in the mood. For some reason, this time of the year, I'm always like, let's like be productive. Let's get stuff done. And I think it's because I struggle really hard with motivation as soon as it starts getting warm because I'm just hot and I don't want to do anything. So I have to like push myself. So if I kind of tick a box, I get really excited. So we're gonna tick some boxes. So I went through Libby and I picked some audiobooks because I have one more week of field work and then I'll just be analyzing data. And that is a great time to listen to audiobooks. Fieldwork is a great time too because I'm driving a lot. So I'm excited. Okay, so let's talk about what's up. I got Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire, which is The Wayward Children. Number 2, the first book is Every Heart a Doorway. If you're not familiar, Every Heart a Doorway introduces us to this world where children who don't have ideal home lives will find a secret door, like a Chronicles of Narnia, an Alice in Wonderland, a portal fantasy, somewhere that takes them somewhere else where maybe they'll find that the world they left is actually not as bad as it could be, or maybe they'll find their perfect world and they'll never want to leave. And the Home for Wayward Children, which is kind of what we're introduced to in the first book, is a place for these children to come and be among other children that had similar experiences to them, and to kind of get over the fact that those doorways will likely never appear for them again. They're kind of like thrown back out into the world and they have to do with that what they will. So in the first book, we get introduced to two characters, Jack and Jill. They are both girls, is Jacqueline and Jill Leon, and they are twins, and they had gotten sent to this kind of vampire werewolf world where they called it the Moors. And this is their book telling us what happened to them while they were in that world. And it's very short. These are all novellas. Oh my god, that light. I think the sun is like starting to set. Is it like actually? No, okay. So it's I have like this pink and green thing on my window. It's like spotlighting me right now. So we're just gonna roll with it, and I'm trying not to squint. So if you see me squinting, I'm not glaring at you. It's because my eyes are kind of sensitive to light, I've learned recently. As long as they don't start watering, we will be okay. So, but they may start going a little bit red, and that is just because apparently my eyes are really sensitive to light. So I'm gonna turn this one off and see if it makes it easier for me to look this direction. It does. Okay, so I can look this way a little bit better now. Okay, so the second book in the series is Jack and Jill's story, and it's about how they went into this vampire world. It's very short. These are all novellas, and both of them had parents who kind of tried to fit them into boxes that they didn't necessarily want to be in, but they kind of had to go into these boxes to survive. And then in this world, they kind of get to explore the opposite of what box they were put in. And one of them becomes a scientist and the other becomes a princess in a castle. And everything happens from there. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Spoiler, I did finish this today. So I'm going to be moving on to the next book, but that is the gist of it. So the next book is, I also have it checked out from Libby and ready to go. This is Beneath the Sugar Sky. So actually, real quick, Down Among the Sticks and Bones is narrated by Shauna McGuire, which is pretty cool, I think. So the next one is Beneath the Sugar Sky. And I'm going to read the synopsis here because I actually didn't get a chance to look at it. I just went click, let's get that one. So the synopsis, this is the third book. This has a slightly lower rating. Down Among the Sticks and Bones, I think, is like a 4.5. This is a 3.85, but I'm sure I'll enjoy it. When Rinny lands with a literal splash in the pond behind Eleanor West's home for wayward children, the last thing she expects to find is that her mother, Sumi, died years before Rinny was even conceived. But Rinny can't let reality get in the way of her quest, not when she has an entire world to save, much more common than one would suppose. If she can't find a way to restore her mother, Rinny will have more than a world to save. She will never have been born in the first place, and in a world without magic, she doesn't have long before reality notices her existence and washes her away. Good thing the student body is well acquainted with quests. So, this is a tale of friendship, baking, and daring do. Warning, may contain nuts. So, yes, that's what I'm about to get into tomorrow. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. Please don't be watching this, just listen. Okay, so that's the second book I'm going to be reading. Again, I got this from Libby. It is also just like a 4-hour book. The next novella I got is to finish off the duology of the Fractured Fairy Tales. This one is Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. It is the sequel to A Spindle Splintered. And this is, Alex wanted to, in her words, Spider-Verse a fairy tale. And in A Spindle Splintered, we have a young woman who is dealing with a terminal disease, and she's kind of always been likened to Sleeping Beauty because she's supposed to die on a specific birthday. And when that is supposed to happen, she kind of does this Sleeping Beauty thing and goes into the Sleeping Beauty verse, and all of this stuff happens. A Mirror Mended is supposed to be based on Snow White and a similar thing. I'm not going to read the synopsis because I just want to go into it, just that's what it is. So I did this on audio. Typically, if I start something physical, I like to continue it physical, but we're not doing that this time. And it's the same with The Wayward Children. I read the first book physically, but I realized putting that constraint on myself is kind of making it so I'm not I'm putting books off, and I would really like to get some series finished. So that's the third book for my pile of possibilities. The audios I will probably do. I am pretty good at sticking to an audio TBR. It's just the physical books that I tend to struggle with, and it usually has to do with length. So the next audiobook that I want to finish is System Collapse, which is the 7th book in the Murderbot Diaries. And I, again, don't want to read the synopsis on this one because I just like to go into the Murderbot books without reading the synopsis. Quick coffee break. So System Collapse is the 7th book following Murderbot, who is a rogue security unit. It hacked its government chip, which means it kind of gets to make its own decisions instead of having to follow these strict guidelines and protocols. Murderbot, I guess, kind of gets a second chance at recreating who it is through something that happens in the first book, and I think anything else I say spoils it. So basically, Murderbot is just, we are following this rogue security unit who has given itself the private name of Murderbot. You know it, and I know it, and Murderbot knows it, but most other people in the world don't know it. It just goes by sec unit most of the time. And it is just kind of trying to exist in this world where it claims to not like humans, but it feels very emotional about the humans that it is supposed to protect at any given time. And it struggles with those two things because it thinks humans are stupid and unpredictable, and it hates that. But it also cares very deeply because it's kind of like how we care about kittens and puppies, because they're just going to hurt themselves if you don't take care of them, basically. And Murderbot just wants to sit and watch its trashy TV shows, and I can also identify with that. And it really hates having emotions about things, and I can also really identify with that. So I'm going to finish the last book. This is actually a full novel instead of a novella. Most of the other books are novellas. There's one other novel, and I think it took a bit to get its pacing, so I'm really hoping that this one gets its pacing. This is the last one. I don't know if this is the end of the series or if this will just catch me up to a book that's supposed to come out, but I will find that out at the end of the month and let you know. My last Libby book is not an audiobook. I actually will be continuing the Mercy Thompson series. I keep saying I'm going to do this and saving them for when I'm unmotivated to read, and they're so easy to read and so good for those times, and now is kind of one of those times. So I got Frostbitten, which is number 7, I think, of the Mercy Thompson series. Mercy is Mercedes Thompson. She is a mechanic, and she is a coyote shifter, and she has this relationship with her neighbor who is the alpha of the local werewolf pack in the Tri-Cities. So it is a little bit of a paranormal romance, but it's also enough not that like there's like a Scooby-Doo mystery in each book, and we get this bigger world where we have vampires and we have fae and we have all of these other like creatures as well. Every mythological being actually does exist, and Mercy ends up interacting with nearly all of them. She is a little bit of a not like other girls, and she can be a little bit of a Mary Sue, but she does get hurt a lot. She does get hurt a lot. She does have consequences to her actions, which kind of makes me like her a little bit. And as the books have gone on, she's become a little less not like other girls. The author has grown a little bit, and I am enjoying the series, and they are really easy to read. My boyfriend owns most of them, so I just can't, he like owns, they're like in a box somewhere, so I just get them on Libby and read them digitally. But that is probably going to be one of my couple of for sure physical reads this month. My next audiobook is going to be The Faithless by C.L. Clarke. This is the second book in the, what is the series called? Let me look at what the series is called. This is called the Magic of the Lost series, and I really enjoy this. So the first book, The Unbroken, broke me. I was crying a good amount, and I just really enjoyed the whole way that the story is done. It is about this woman, Touraine, who is from a community that was colonized, and then she was essentially kidnapped and made to be a soldier for her oppressors. And then these things happen, and she ends up being like a direct protector of the princess who wants to be queen, but her uncle is on the throne as her like regent, and she has to try to prove that she's ready for it. She has a disability, and there ends up being this like tumultuous relationship between Touraine and her name, which I can't remember. Let me see if I can find it. Luca. Her name is Luca. And basically it's Touraine dealing with those emotions and how fucked up that is. That Luca would actually like try to have this relationship with her when there's this power dynamic and everything that Luca has done to her people, but Luca is also trying to like help the rebels in a way, but then other stuff happens, then she like changes her mind, and all of this stuff like just kind of keeps happening, and I really enjoyed it, and I want to see what C.L. Clarke does with it next. C.L. Clarke was pretty inspired by the French occupation of Northern Africa, and has written it to kind of be based on that. This is one of the Saffron Sapphic triad books, which are The Unbroken, The Jasmine Throne, Sun. She Who Became the Sun is the third one. So I still have to get to that one. I may try to get to it this month. We'll see how I feel about fantasy after I've done a few. So this is going to be a little bit longer of an audiobook. So this audiobook is 17 hours, where my other longest one is 7. So this will be a little bit longer. Something to like kind of dig my teeth into a little bit more. So we'll see how I'm feeling about audios, about fantasy audio. Sometimes I can get a little burnt out on one thing, and that is definitely something that happened this month, but I'll talk to you about that in my wrap up. I want to try to have the option. So that is my I have one more fantasy audiobook, but the reason I picked The Faithless, and I feel like I really want to get back into this world. The third book is due to come out this September or October, I believe. I really want to be ready to read that third book when it comes out. So if I do this on audio, and then I may try to pick them up physically, we'll see. I'm not very good at rereading before finishing a series. I'm usually like, let me finish the series and then reread everything after I finish it. At least that's what I did with like Gideon. So we'll see. So that is my last big one. And then the very last one I have is Le Fay by Sophie Keach. And I've had this one for a while and just kind of sat on it. I wasn't a huge fan of Morgan Is My Name, which is the prequel to this. It was the first book that came out in the series. This is a feminist retelling of King Arthur. And it's told from the time Morgan grows up, like as a baby, into her growing up. And obviously she's going to be Morgan Le Fay, right? So, she gets called a couple different things, and it was okay. I really didn't like, wasn't like, oh my God, this is so feminist and amazing. I actually found it to kind of be a little misogynistic. And I was like putting down other women. I don't remember the whole story, and so maybe I will have to reread Morgan Is My Name, but I do remember the gist of what happened. But I remember feeling like just because we're putting other women down doesn't mean this is a feminist like book, because it was very much like one woman kind of like fighting against the patriarchy, but all the other women upholding the patriarchy. And I was like, and she was like, that's fine if you want to be that way, I will not be that way. And I was like, that's not feminism. That's individualism. Like, anyway, so we'll see how the second book does. I've had it on audio for a long time. I just haven't picked it up. So then I've got 2 physical books on my TBR that I want to get to. First one is Sorrowland by River Solomon. I read the first chapter of this, like when I did my try a chapter video. You can watch that if you like. I really enjoyed the first chapter of this. I don't remember a lot of the details because I read a lot in a single day. But we are following Vern. We're following Vern, and she has just given birth in the woods, and she's kind of outside of this cult, and there's a lot of religious like pressure, and I was hooked. River Solomon, I read 2 other books from them, and they do a really good job of weaving in like gender identities and sexual identities and racism and colonialism and all of these other like really heavy topics into these really in-depth worlds, and I'm curious to see where this one goes. It's also supposed to have a little bit of fungal horror in it, which should help me kind of like get out of the fantasy like kind of little slump that happened this month. The other physical book I have is Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I also read the first chapter of this one in my try a chapter and really enjoyed it. There's a woman called Etsy who has found a journal from her like great grandpa or uncle or something like that, a family member who is long since deceased. And it starts off with him telling a story that he overheard of a man who was very brutally attacked, and that's kind of where it starts. So we're getting like his journal entries as well as like her narrative, at least in the very beginning, and I am told that it changes after that. This is a historical horror with vampires. So I've got like 2 vampire books this month, which I always love to work in a vampire book. Yeah, so those are 9 books that are like my pile of possibilities and my hopefuls, things that I really want to try to get to, and we'll see if I do or not. So follow me throughout the month if you want to see if I get to these books. I will be making videos and reviews about them as we go. I try to do a wrap up every week to let you know what I have been reading in case I miss some reviews in between, and then once or twice a month I try to do a review as well as some random stuff in between. So if you want to see any of that, give me a follow. The sun is just now perfect. So I will see you soon with something else.